Welcome to another episode of Rich Dad Stockcast. I'm your host, Del Denney, and today we're calling out the elephant in the room. Most people are financially average, and that's exactly the problem. If you want average results, keep doing what everyone else is doing. But if you want real freedom, wealth, and confidence, you've got to think and act differently. I'm here with Rich Dad expert Andy Tanner, and today we're breaking down 5 ways you can stop being average with money starting now. And before we get rolling, make sure you head over to stockcastbonus.com. Grab your free investing tools. They'll help you build the skills and mindset to break free from average. Let's get into it. Andy, welcome back to the show.
This is a great topic. It's funny because that when you talk about average and being average, so when my sons are growing up, they've got all these people saying, "Don't get your hopes up on playing college basketball because only one in so many, and the average guy doesn't, and the average kid isn't going to this, the average kid." I'm like, what is this, a roll of the dice? Like we have no control over this. What you just line up and you just hope you're selected in a lottery. There's only a 1 in 100,000 chance that you can go do this. Only 1 in 100,000 kids do this. I go, we have no plan for that. We have no plan to be average. The average guy doesn't get up early and get their shots in. The average guy doesn't go to bed early and get their growth hormone max. The average guy doesn't go in and make 300 threes a day. The average guy doesn't lift. The average guy. And so, all this stuff about, the average guy, you can't expect this because the average return in the market is this, you shouldn't expect more than average, blah, blah, blah. Be great. So this is a great topic.
I love this topic so much. I can't wait to dig into this. The bar is so low for average. But before we get into it, stockcastbonus.com, not for your average. What do our listeners get when they go there?
Well, probably the most important word at Stockcast Bonus is free stuff. There's a lot of stuff there that's no charge. And what it really does is it puts a person on a pathway of habits and behavior. Knowledge is one thing, behavior is another. When you can merge those two and have your behavior come in congruence with better knowledge, that's when things start to happen. But we can watch every podcast in the world and watch until we click the button and invest in something, or go buy a piece of real estate, or borrow some money, or do some things. The needle doesn't move with edutainment. The needle moves with action. So StockcastBonus.com is a place where people can get into a rhythm and really learn the habits and the action, particularly with there's a download called Power 6. Get that for sure. It'll show you the 6 numbers that you can start to manipulate, change your life. So it's good stuff.
Very good. Very good. Now, before we get into the 5 strategies that we are going to talk about, let's be honest. Most people are financially average. Most people, and maybe not fault of their own, maybe by default. Why are most people average when it comes to investing, and what is average?
Well, average is mutual fund people. Average is the S&P 500. It's, the average is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? It is just kind of your run-of-the-mill things. And Warren Buffett and Munger talked a lot about that, actually, the late Munger. Warren would say, why would I, if I have a list of 30 stocks, why would I put equal money in all of them and put the same amount of number 30 in my list of attractiveness as number 1? So they certainly aren't looking to be average. They say, well, the average person can't beat the market. That's true. The average person can't. And so don't be average. Don't be average. So, a person that's going to settle for 8 to 10, which has historically been what the market's gone up, they're not investing for cash flow. And I think these 5 things we're going to talk about, I don't know if they're strategies, but I think they are focuses. 5 different places to put your focus, 5 things you can do to climb above average that you'll see average people don't do, that superior investors do all the time.
What would you say are some of the warning signs that someone is thinking about money like the masses? Like, what does the average financial behavior actually look like?
Well, it'd be the opposite of literacy. It would be advice. The average person lives in the advice culture where that is a skill for hire rather than a life skill. So, literacy would be a really important thing. If a person is in the advice culture, they say, look, I'm not going to learn anything. I'm going to hand my money to Wall Street or whoever. I'm going to pay a fee, which is devastating to pay fees to these folks. Yeah, that's the first warning sign is if you're in the advice culture, you're going to be average. You're just going to be average because that's how Wall Street is designed. They're not going to have you in the instruments that can be great. They're going to play it more than safe because if you are only at the average, when the average goes down, they get to say, well, see, everyone's down. This is just part of the game. You'll never be exceptional with that. With the diversified mutual fund, you're getting married to average. You're planning on average when you do that stuff.
Here's a good question, and I think about this a lot, and I can't figure it out. Why do people stay average? Why do people stay stuck in the middle? It's always boggled my mind.
Couldn't answer that. Most of the times I can go off on an answer and give my opinion. I have no idea. There's a great pastor that said, can you light a fire in someone? He says most people don't see much change, but if you can find an existing flame, you can fan it sometimes. But that initial spark to be better than average and to get the most, it's that's why some people are capitalists, some people are socialists. Socialists love sameness. I can't imagine a world where I'm not free to go and be the best that I can be and do the best that I can and serve as many people as I can. So I don't know the answer to that. That's something that maybe someone can type in the comments if they have an answer. I don't know why people settle for average. I have no idea. But they're certainly not, we certainly don't attract those people in the Cashflow Academy. That's for sure. We're not interested in average.
I was going to say, I'm sure the people listening to this are a little bit above average for sure. Now, thinking about the masses, we're thinking about the mainstream. How dangerous is it to follow mainstream financial advice blindly?
Well, it depends on who you are, but I'll give you an example. Every year, Vanguard comes out with their How America Saves. And this is less than an average and more of a median, which I think is, just as important to talk about. But there's about 11 to 12 trillion dollars in contribution funds like 401ks. Like you say, the run of the mill thing. And in that, if you take the age, and I'd say of that 11 trillion, Vanguard's probably got two of it, maybe two trillion of it. So this is a significant sampling of the masses. It's accurate. And if you look at the demographics, let's say age 55 to 64, that 10 years before retirement, the median balance is less than 100,000. And so that's the first thing is half the people in those programs have less than 100,000. Half of them, more than half of them have less than 100,000. That's lint. That doesn't last you a year in this world. It certainly doesn't give you abundance for a year in this world. And here's what's really rough. The run-of-the-mill advice says withdraw 4% a year to live on, and they hope that it grows, and keeps up. Well, that's about $300 a month. 400 or $300 a month if you take 4% out per year. I can't go to dinner on $300 a month. So the danger of going into that run-of-the-mill stuff is the 401ks were never designed to shoulder retirement. Most people, the majority of people, are going to have to work longer than they wanted. Danger is it's a system that doesn't work for most people. Now, there's some rich executives that get big bonuses and already have a big salary. They'll make it. They'll never be what they could have been. They're just ahead of the game enough that it doesn't kill them. It doesn't help them, but it doesn't kill them as bad as the average guy. So being average is rough if you if you want to retire, because the system doesn't do it for most people.
No, and I think we're really starting to see that the system is failing a lot of people. But let's do this. Let's go to break. Listeners, we've looked at what average really means when it comes to money and why it keeps people stuck. But when we come back, Andy's going to walk us through 5 tactical shifts to help you to rise above the crowd. And remember, don't forget to visit stockcastbonus.com. We've put together some great resources to help you think bigger, act smarter, grow your financial intelligence fast. Stick around. We'll be right back.
So far, it's been great. I needed a source where I could really enrich my education through stocks. I didn't really have an avenue for it, and it's helped me a lot. The simplicity has really gotten me on the track to where I enjoy the learning as well as it's really solidifying in my mind. And like, they're not just trying to sell you something, they really care about the people that are in the course, and they really do care about you and your personal goals, and what you want to do is to help you and your family and whatever your goals are in life through that. So it's really been great.
Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. I'm here with Andy Tanner, and now we're talking solutions. Here are 5 ways to stop being financially average and start building wealth. And so the first one is, learn financial literacy outside of school. And my question for you, Andy, is why is it that the most important financial education happens after graduation?
Well, I think school's designed for rat race. I compare my book 401 Chaos. I compare it to a fish hatchery. Kind of a protective prison to get these fish growing. Then they put them out in the wild for the angler's agenda, and that's very much what school happens. They keep them in this protective prison, then they send them to the job fair, and the corporations dangle the bait of 401ks and matches and salaries, and they become servants. That way for the majority of their working lives. So I think school is just not designed to do it. The other thing is there's a lot more to it than just intellectual knowledge. There's a spirit to it. I remember Robert Kiyosaki talks a lot about spirit, and he often makes the popular quote. I think it's Tim Allen. When spirit rises and commands, gods are ready to obey. So there's a lot more to just financial education than book reading. There's practice, there's simulations, there's failure, there's playing games, and there's a grit and a spirit to it that just isn't found in school.
It makes me also think of, I forget who it said or where I read it, but most people stop education as soon as they get the degree. They just stop. So they don't pick up a book again. They don't continue the education. I think that's average. So as you're thinking about continuing education, what separates those that are successful from those that are not? What would you say?
Like in terms of financial literacy?
From financial literacy, or really, I would say the desire to learn more, making education delicious, as they say.
Well, we have a motto of fun, simple, and real, and it can be a great journey. It can be illumination, it's discovery, it's a lot of fun. But again, I don't know how to plant desires. I don't know if you can plant a desire in someone. In the book Think and Grow Rich, that's number 1 on the list. It starts with not just desire, burning desire. And I think the desire for most people is security more than freedom. And so the idea of a job that's kind of there, that's consistent, that illusion. And for some people, it's not illusion. They land a job and stay there for a long, long time. But I think the default setting for a lot of people is they want security more than freedom. And that's why socialism and capitalism battle. Capitalism is about being free, and socialism is about being, whatever it is. Secure and social security, right? Which really isn't secure.
No, not one bit. All right.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer. That's my opinion. I could be dead wrong. I just know when I wake up in the morning, the idea of averages doesn't appeal to me. So I don't know why people don't have a desire to learn it. I think a lot of people do, and that's up to the individual.
Fair enough. I totally understand that. All right. Yeah. Number 2, we'll move on. Invest for cash flow, not just growth. Now, why does cash flow change the game? And how do most people, or why do most people overlook it? Why is cash flow so important? And because we know
Well,
the average person isn't really going for cash flow. You know, they're just on the sidelines,
yeah,
hoping and praying.
people get enamored with price. The stock market has always been about that. Even real estate markets get like that. House flippers and such, trying to manipulate the price. Buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high is a mantra for a lot of people. But in practice, that's pretty tough to do to get all those right. Where cash flow is, we have to have our golden egg reference. Machines that produce cash, I think, compound better. Compounding, I think, is better with reinvestment of cash flow, where you have something that churns out money and then it pays for itself, and then you get by another one. Now you have two of them churning out money that pays for the second twice as fast, and then you have, another one, three assets, working on buying another, and then four assets. And I think you have a better chance of compounding assets and increasing your assets if you're using cash flow to fund those efforts. And as soon as a person gets a passive income above their expenses and they have an excess, boy, that compounding can really go then, because it's kind of like Warren Buffett says. He says, money has no real utility to me anymore. I've got so much of it that I can never spend it all. So all the excess just goes into making more, and the compounding just gets really big. So I think cash flow investing is, if you're trying to solve the problem of the financial statement, it's expenses. And that problem of expenses is best answered by income, not an increase in net worth. And so I think assets that generate new money are more valuable in the long run and easier to deal with than assets where you're depending on the price change, like gold or Bitcoin. Real estate and stocks have dividends and distributions. Gold and Bitcoins, their price just moves. So I favor the cash flow. Obviously that's the name of our academy. So
there you
average
go.
person, speaking about average person doesn't invest for cash flow. The average person isn't excited about the dividend. An average person is excited about the price movement. I don't get as excited about price movement, because even if I sell at a profit, now my asset's gone and my cash flow goes with it. So there's stocks I've had, for so many years, and they double and they triple. Well, how do you sell those? You don't want to give up the cash flow, especially if it's, a nice double digit between 10 and 20. It's tough to give those up.
There we go. That is another great distinction between the average and everyone else. All right, number 3 of 5 ways to stop being average with money: use systems, not emotion, to make decisions. So let's talk about systems. What's the difference between a gambler and a true investor?
Well, if we want to know what the gambler is, go to Vegas. That's pretty easy to see. They are about emotion. They exclaim when they win. They whine when they lose. If we go to Vegas and we watch a blackjack table, and someone gets a blackjack, they cheer, and someone draws a 6, on top, and like, oh, gee, I got 16. It's terrible. Or they bust. Oh, I just busted. What's interesting is on the other side of that is the dealer and the rules and the system. And those guys are made out of cardboard. They don't get excited when the casino takes money, and they don't get bummed out when the casino pays it out. They just say, keep it running, boys and girls, keep it running. And it's a skimming operation, really, where they just take where the money goes into the machine, and they just get a certain percentage of it, a small percentage, but it compounds. So, they have table limits, which is part of the system. They have odds, which is part of the system. The whole thing is just this machine. And that's really what we would like to do with investing is they say life should be exciting, but investing should be boring. And we should create machines where we just say, keep it running. And that's all Wall Street is a skimming operation. They have what's called AUM, assets under management. And they try to get as much as they can and take the fees and skim the top. So we should learn from the casino skimming operation. We should learn from the Wall Street skimming operation. We should actually create machines that mimic those, where we have rules like table limits. That's called position sizing. So yeah, having a system. There's a book by Jack Schwager, and I've interviewed him twice on the Cashflow Academy podcast. Jack Schwager wrote 2 versions of this book. It's called Market Wizards, 1 and 2, right? Version 1 and 2. And he just interviewed successful people that, were making money in markets. Some were investors, some were traders, whatever. But he said the one thing they all had in common is they all had a system. Every single one of them had something, a routine, rules that they had set up that they followed. And he said, everyone I talked to had a different system, every single one, but they all had some system. And I think that's wise. I have my system that I really like with my bread and butter stuff, and it doesn't change. Market up, market down, market sideways, doesn't change. I just act like that pit boss and keep it running.
There we go. All right, let's keep it running with the 5 ways to stop being average with money. Number 4, get comfortable with assets the average person ignores. So the question is, why do you love stocks, options, real estate so much more than, dare I say, mutual funds and savings accounts?
Christmas. Can you even imagine being a mutual fund or like a CD or something like that? I mean, can you even imagine it? One of my dear friends, and he's a confidant and he's a mentor, and a dear friend is Than Merrill. And he has a fund with a couple billion in it, Equity Street. And he did things the average guy didn't do. Talk about a guy that understood systems. Boy, he really knew how to build systems. And, he's syndication. The average guy doesn't mess with syndication. The average guy doesn't even know what sponsorship equity is. And I remember he was raising capital for a multi-million dollar, like a, $70, $80 million project. And my son is like probably 16 years old, and he's watching this presentation. And when he was done, I go, "What'd you get out of that?" And he goes, 2 words, Dad: sponsorship equity. That's what I want. Because he understood what he was doing. And most people, if they're listening to this, I say, how much money did you make off sponsorship equity? For me, it was 0, because I didn't sponsor any syndications, So yeah, getting comfortable with debt even. Again, I'm always parting ways, maybe somewhat respectfully, maybe even disrespectfully. I don't know. I don't respect people who are afraid of fire, because fire saved more lives than it's taken. And because someone got burned with a fire, to not learn firecraft as a Boy Scout and learn flint and steel and learn how to cook and defend from the bear and light your way and warm your house and say fire's bad, fire's good. People that don't know how to use it, then they get burned. And to say debt is a bad instrument. Debt has created far more wealth than it's destroyed. There's no question. Debt has created far more wealth than it's ever destroyed. And to say, well, I'm not going to use a debt instrument, that's insane. I would not be where I am today in my real estate life without debt. Not even close. There's no way I would have saved up enough money to go buy the first home I bought as an investment, right? There's just no way. You use debt, and now we look, and it's kind of monopoly. You get another house. Pretty soon you're like, wow, we got some houses around here, syndications around here. Most people don't do it. They get in a mutual fund and hands off and whatever. So I couldn't agree more. Learn about assets that the average person doesn't learn about. And if they say, oh, well, they're risky, the average person shouldn't do that. Yeah, the average person shouldn't. So don't be average. Learn it. Learn assets like options. Most people are leaving so much money on the table because they don't know how to sell an option. I can't imagine the amount of money, if I went back over the years, that has been brought in by clicking get paid selling options. Can't visualize my life without it. Can't imagine being investing without it. So yeah, options and debt and different types of instruments that seem intermediate, they're above average.
There you go. All right, number 5, and I'm going to reference Than Merrill again on this one. Love Than,
Yeah.
mutual friend of ours. I think the world of him. Uh, Number 5 is this: surround yourself with people playing a bigger game. Now, that's Than has brought my game up because of being around him. So my question is, how much does your financial environment shape your ceiling?
Well, I know that most rooms I'm in, everyone's playing a bigger game than I am, so that's a good thing. You learn so much from other people, and you don't have to divorce or unfriend or hate the people that are in a path that's not yours. But with that said, and but negates everything you just said before you said but, I guess. But the reality is that you do become more like the people you hang out with. And so I've done my very best to offer value. I think a more important question than that might be, Andy, how do you expand your circle like that? Well, you go where they go. If they're giving a speech, you go attend and do a meet and greet after. You do whatever you can. And what I try to do is bring value to those people. So, for example, the relationship I had with Than didn't start off as a friendship. It started off as a business relationship where I had something that was of value to him, and I gave him a great deal on it. And I created a win for him. And then that reciprocation just happens. Then he created many wins for me. So, people will often, I'll go on. It's one of the reasons I don't travel anymore. You'll go on an investing summit or something, and people will say, the people want to take, help me be successful, help me, tell me what to help me be. Could you give me some of your time? Oh, could we have lunch? All this, and they don't rarely have anything to offer. They rarely come with something to offer. So you want to look inside yourself, say, hey, what could I offer the circle that I want to be in? If I'm going to get into a mastermind, which is a great way to do this, my business partner, several mastermind groups he belongs to. That's a great way to do it. But to be in a mastermind, you have to think, what am I going to bring to the table to bless their lives as well? So hanging out with people, those are 5 great things. Average people aren't financially literate. Average people invest for capital gain, not cash flow. Average people don't follow a system. Average people get in mutual funds, not properties or oil wells or other options. And average people hang out with average people. So those are 5 great ones, Del.
There we go. Love it. Well, I think that wraps our show today. Being average is easy. Breaking out of the trap takes clarity, discipline, and courage. But if you're still listening to this, you're already on the path. And a huge thank you to Andy Tanner for bringing the wisdom, bringing the heat today, as always.
Geez.
If you're a serious listener about upgrading your financial thinking, make sure you visit stockcastbonus.com right now. We've got free tools and resources to help you to break out of average and into your financial potential. And if this episode has helped you in any way, please make sure you like it, subscribe it, share it with someone who's tired of being financially average. You're not here by accident. You're building something that most people want. Stay smart, stay invested, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.